I'm racing around trying to beat a curfew that's going to be imposed at 5 p.m. I'm going to leave the shelter of my rural place, and I'm going to be delivering some supplies to people I love, mainly humic acid, colloidal silver, and liposomal vitamin C that I made myself. The lipo C I make myself, I brag about it because I put CoQ10 in there right now, which is a quinone, and quinine sulfate and quinine derivatives are in fact being used to lessen the symptoms. And we're making a video on the quinine compound and the families. We've talked about them before, so that's kind of cool that if you've watched this channel a couple years ago, we were talking about quinones and quinine and in autoimmune and in cancer. And one of the most well-known quinones around are found in CoQ10. The Q in CoQ10 stands for quinone. So yeah, I like putting CoQ10 in my liposomal C, especially since I have like a kilogram of it just sitting here, sealed up, just sitting here. What is it going to do? I don't have a cancer retreat anymore. So you put it in there and you lipolyze all of that, and you throw colloidal silver in, a little colloidal silver into the vitamin C, just a small amount to act as a preservative, but also to enhance the antiviral components in there. You can buy quinine sulfate. You can buy quinine online. It carries with it a lot of heavy warnings it didn't used to. Many things about the quinine sulfate and chloroquine. I mean, they're different families of quinones. They're not identical. And just like anything in chemistry, carbon and oxygen you need. You need carbon. You need oxygen. But you put carbon and oxygen together and you get carbon monoxide, which your body will kill you if you breathe that stuff in. So it's, chemistry is a pretty weird thing, but everything's predictable. You know what 1 + 1 equals. The quinine sulfate is by far safer than the chloroquine. I took chloroquine for 2 months as anti-malarial medication. I took gamma globulin, got a shot of that leaving the country. Those things protected me while I was down in the jungles of Central America. And what was I doing down there as a 19-year-old? To this day, I wonder what the heck I was doing down there. But interesting times, another video. Now, the quinine sulfate is not the same thing, and neither is the chloroquine as what those people took that killed themselves. What those people took was a phosphated molecule, and phosphates are very hard on the kidneys. And the chloroquine can be a pro-oxidant. And in fact, you heard it here first. Quinine sulfate is a pro-oxidant. Both the quinine attaches to oxygen rather readily. Just Google quinone and click images. And these things also absorb ultraviolet, which is why we put CoQ10 in sunblock, and why there are quinones in sunblock, not just CoQ10, but other quinones, because they absorb ultraviolet. So, and when they do, they shed their oxygen, and then when they calm down, they attach to oxygen, and quinones are highly absorbable into the cell. So when you have something that's really highly absorbable into the cell that carries with it a reactive oxygen, it's going to do a lot of things. If you take too much of it, it can cause inflammation in the kidneys. Well, you don't want to have inflammation in the kidneys. It can, and the reason, there's a really strong link to the mechanism that proves this mechanism. I've been screaming about it for since 2003. I've been blogging, writing articles about the pro-oxidant nature of quinones. And there's a study out there where they used a very specific type of CoQ10 for a cancer patient, and that's all they gave the cancer patient, and the tumors were shrinking. So I'm not going to say use the word cure at all, but that tells you something was interfering with the cancer's ability to metabolize and grow. Generally, that's nutritional in nature. So if cancers don't like oxygen and quinones are pro-oxidants, as sometimes reactively so, then heck, it's no wonder why these things kill parasites and help in autoimmune diseases. And I think you should be taking them in cancer. Other people take other things for cancer that contain quinones. Whole aloe vera is really well known for its quinones. Pau de arco. Those two things, aloe vera, pau de arco, you put those in your browser, pau de arco and cancer, pau de arco and viruses, you'll see there's a link. All of these quinones are antimicrobial. If you don't think that quinones are antimicrobial by a pro-oxidant mechanism, well, just look at the bombardier beetle. That's a beetle that shoots steam out of its abdomen or its hind end. I don't know how else to say it, and still stay on the air. But it uses a quinone as an oxidant. So it supplies oxygen to fuel a combustion. It's a catalase peroxide reaction that generates heat. You throw in a pro-oxidant and you accelerate that heat, and all of a sudden this bug is shooting steam out its rear end. Pretty bizarre stuff going on in nature sometimes. Quinones, part of that equation. William Koch, K-O-C-H, developed an entire field of medicine. Rest in peace. He did very careful documentation, and to this day, Germany has kind of adopted some of his protocols, and they're using it broad spectrum. Why? Because it kills a lot of things, or inhibits a lot of things. It impairs a lot of things. So when you have a quinone in quinine, and similar to the anthraquinines in the aforementioned stuff, and these alkaloids have many beneficial features. But just like anything, you can have an allergy to it, or number two, you can take too much of it. And half of negative reactions on some medications, half of them are due to toxicities due to microbial die-off and cytokine release. So what toxicities attributed directly to the quinone, and what toxicity is because you took a lot of it and you killed off too many things at once. I mean, how much of that is involved in the toxicities that they document? There's no set, way to quantify that currently, because nobody really is working on cellular toxicity from die-offs. You hear a lot about it in Lyme disease, very toxic event when Lyme dies. It's very toxic when cancer dies, too quickly. So the quinine sulfate has been used for decades, and it seems like that the younger people were having more side effects than the older people, and I venture a guess it's because they're taking too big a dose. You have leg cramps. It's over the counter. Instead of one, take two on an empty stomach. You can start vomiting. Tonic water. You know what? Safeway Select, or the Select Reserve brand of Safeway, makes a tonic water that does not have benzene in it. It has citric acid, which again, another pro-oxidant, antioxidant molecule that can shift left and right on the chemical scale, absorbing oxygen and then releasing oxygen, depending on its energy state. And also depending on your energy levels in intercellular and extracellular spaces. Now, what killed those people was called quinine phosphate. And phosphates are good when they're attached to fats. Phosphates are good when they attach to polysaccharides, and phosphates are okay then. But phosphates on their own is very hard on your kidney. So you're going to take a phosphated quinine, you don't even know what the therapeutic range is, forget it. You could trash your kidneys, you could create instant vomiting, and so when you're vomiting and trashing your kidneys at the same time, good luck in not dying. So that's how that works. Now, it's imperative that you understand the mechanism of action. And quinine sulfate, the fact that it works on a virus, almost all of these have some antiviral tendencies. Anything that's pro-oxidant. People are saying olive leaf extract. Yes, that's a very, very complicated phenol, where the quinones are very, very small and simple phenols. The more complicated phenols have longer lifespans, but they are poor absorbability. The smaller phenols, like quinones, xanthines, those things absorb very well, even into connective tissue, and cross the blood-brain barrier. When you combine it with sulfate, sulfur is a necessary mineral, and the sulfate is SO4. SO4 sulfate is actually a pro-oxidant. And when you look at what foods are high in phosphate, and high in sulfates, you're looking at garlic. Very high. One of the most highest things you can eat in sulfates is garlic. In fact, the smell is created by sulfate. MSM and DMSO. Those are all sulfated molecules and have healing properties. And so when you attach 4 oxygen to your sulfate, you have something that's carrying a ton of oxygen in a very stable form throughout the body. So you add a quinine and a sulfate, it's really hard to get 2 different pro-oxidants to connect together as a salt, but you can do it with quinones. So and you can do it with sulfate. So it's really, that's your mechanism. So and basically quinine sulfate is more controlled than ever. Many what they're not going to tell you is the adverse reactions, because basically some of this stuff over the counter competes with who. They're going to put everything on the book that they can to vilify the medication. But quinine sulfate, we've been taking it for years. People have been drinking tonic water for years. No problems. So the problem comes when you combine it with certain things, and quinine, they don't want you taking it with certain things. You don't want you taking it with blood thinners. Now, one of the things that is a slam dunk proof that the mechanism that the quinines use is a pro-oxidant mechanism. The slam dunk on that is the fact, if you read up some of the side effects, it causes hemolytic anemia. Hemolytic anemia is caused by people who can't break down reactive oxygen in their bodies. So if they go in for a cancer therapy that's really highly aggressive pro-oxidant, you can start destroying your red blood cells. They will lyse, they will split, and then you will spill bilirubin. And so when you start attaching other things than sulfate to the quinone, then you increase its absorbability, you increase its lifespan, and it's easier to overdose. Chloroquine is one of those. You don't want to overdose on that. So So the quinine sulfate is by far the tamest form of quinine compound you can ingest, but the tonic water is also not bad. You want to drink 1 or 2 bottles of tonic water a day slowly. It's not a bad idea. Mix it with your pineapple juice. Mix it with. You're gonna be amazed at how it comes to life. Yes, leave the gin in the liquor cabinet, but that's how the quinine sulfate works. And I'm in the medical community. I have a lab that I use. It's not my lab. I turn my place into a lab, and everything's sterile up here. Nobody's even allowed here. I've for a complete month I have not been to the city, although I am going to venture down there today, and I'm going to run down there any minute now. But it does become very, very disturbing when something that's therapeutic first is misrepresented how it works, and number 2, it's misrepresented how bad it is. But there are, it's one of those over-the-counters that have some very strong warnings. But people die from taking aspirin. People die from taking ibuprofen. People die from taking a lot of over-the-counters. There's no way that, I'm not saying chloroquine. I'm saying there's no way that appropriately dosed without, the medication interactions, without blood thinners and, blood pressure medication taken at the same time, then quinine sulfate is almost like a vitamin. And if you take quinine sulfate or chloroquine as a silver bullet to the coronavirus, you're making a big mistake. You're making a big mistake. Because it's not going to get rid of the disease. It's going to lessen your symptoms, just like everything else. But if you have a lab and you would like pharmaceutical grade quinine sulfate for experimental purposes only, I'm actually working with it. I'm trying to lipolyze it. I think lipolyzing it will extend its life in the bloodstream. We know it will. I think it will protect it from, your stomach, upsetting your stomach, because some people get upset stomachs when they take pills. And we're trying to see if it works the same as the regular quinine. And the only way to test it is by people that are here, part of my network, that have issues. But if one of us in my network gets coronavirus, we're not going to just run to quinine sulfate. We're not going to run to chloroquine. We're running to the things that we've been promoting since day one: humic acid, colloidal silver, and vitamin C. But anyway, that's the story on all of that. And good luck to you guys. This is just absolutely crazy stuff we're going through.